I believe you've created that category.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think if it was up to me, I would do the testing in a small market like an Ottawa, a Kingston, or something like that. But I would do the launch in the U.S. somewhere, probably.
Yeah. I definitely test the low alcohol, and then the zero alcohol audience with the same, maybe 3 different breweries saying, okay, I'm going to go low alcohol for you.
I agree with you on that and do the testing like Ottawa or Kingston or Hamilton or something in a small town. And then delivery for like mass, I would do it rush week.
Right. Oh, that's a great idea.
That's super fun.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome to the Millionaires Idea Vault show, where we interview successful entrepreneurs for them to give away their best business idea. And together we workshop the idea live on the show. And we don't know what the idea is before they show up on the show.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing. If you want to get the most out of the show, make sure you download all the documents prepared with the links below so you get access to the business plan, pitch decks, worksheets. Sounds good? See you in the show. Peace. Hello, everybody. Gents, nice to have you guys here. We are here at another episode of the Millionaires Idea Vault, where one of these fine lads are going to share an idea that they've recognized that the problem is warrants a business solution. And so we're going to hash that out. And we have 2 incredible guests today. First, I'm going to go with our feature guest today, Mr. Josh.
Gosh, Josh.
I have combined your last name with your first name, but we only do first names here. So, because I can never pronounce my own last name.
I don't know your last name, by the way.
Nguyen. Gabaraki? No, I'm just kidding. And then we'll give your bios in a little bit because I'm not very good at doing blustros. And then we have Mr. Graeme here. And he is, we always try to invite an additional guest or 2 to be on the board of advisors. And so we have an additional member of the board of advisors for the business idea that we're going to be learning today. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Rich and I were super excited, everybody.
Super excited.
And it's super casual, so
And I got to meet these 2 guys for the first time.
I know, I can't believe,
Ridiculous.
again, I can't believe you guys have never met. But we're going to first start with a lovely intro about Mr. Josh. A quick little intro about who you are and about yourself, and then we'll move on.
Perfect. So I'm the Chief Entertainment Officer at a company called Arctic Leaf. I
Nice.
am the CEO and co-founder of Arctic Leaf. It's a digital agency focusing on e-commerce development, so design development, retention marketing. Serial entrepreneur. I've been involved in the direct sales industry, cannabis sector. Fun fact about me is I actually started my career in the adult entertainment industry. Worked for Brazzers and Pornhub for a couple of years. Ultimately left that industry and started a game development company, where I met Graeme.
An
Oh.
eternity ago.
Only 2 stupid people in Ottawa to decide to start a game development studio or a game development company.
Yeah.
And
It always sounds like a good idea. Right?
It
know.
seems so fun.
it seems very fun, but then you kind of do, and you're like, why? Like, what am I doing?
I should have
here?
stayed in the adult entertainment business. That's
I should have. Yeah. So serial entrepreneur agency is about coming up on 14 years now.
Wow.
Been involved with a couple of other ventures along the way. One of them recently I actually just exited. So it was a company called Partner Portal, which is a PRM solution. And so we exited that in December. So 4 years from start to finish, which was pretty awesome. Pretty excited about that.
Congrats. That's great, actually. 4 years.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's pretty cool. And just dabbled in a lot of things. Did Fight for the Cure here in Ottawa a couple years ago. That was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done. And just love being part of cool ideas and working with awesome people.
That's first, thank you for sharing. And every time I hear a fellow entrepreneur saying I had an exit, I can imagine all the other entrepreneurs in the world saying, oh, I wish I could just, if I could just exit right now, it'd be so
My
great.
favorite part of that is 4 years. Usually it's like I'm 20 years into
Exactly.
this.
It's like, damn, he exited. Freak. Oh,
There's
shit.
a lot that I think most entrepreneurs don't realize that is involved in exiting a company.
Yeah.
Yes.
The due diligence, the legal costs associated to it.
Believe me, I know.
So
Believe me, I know. And they don't always end successfully.
no,
I can tell you that.
We've gotten to the point a number of times where we've had an LOI on the table. I also own a data center here in Ottawa, Pure Colo, one of the co-founders on that, and we've had 7 failed exit attempts. And I think recently we just had another one, so it was 8. Yeah. So they don't talk about all the failures up to the actual exit.
Yeah,
But
we need fresh founders to cover this story. Like we're not about that whole side of the
Fresh
type of
Founders
podcast.
doesn't even know who I am. So,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about me. Originally from Montreal, big hockey guy. I love boxing at this point. Love combat sports, and just can't wait for the summertime, to be honest.
Sick. And Mr. Graeme, who will be on the show on this side of the table. In
like
the
a
beginning
week,
of May.
That's right, a couple
May,
weeks.
May 3rd. Yeah. But so you might as well do a brief intro today, but we're going to have to do another more in-depth intro.
His is way better than mine.
So I'll keep it
You
quick.
could crash
this is the
his
Josh
your
show.
show too if
That'd
you'd
be
like.
fun. We should do that.
He was
Here
an
in town.
actor in his original.
Yeah.
He's a fluffer, actually.
There you go. I just do voice lines for games Josh makes.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, I've been a serial entrepreneur my entire life. Got started out in the game space 25 years ago, selling online currency before that was actually a market. I think we were one of the first people doing kind of black market currency sales on eBay. Built that company up over a number of years, exited it in 2006, built a game development company here in town. I think we actually went opposite routes when we started. We went the Facebook Flash route, and you guys were in the mobile space.
Well, we did start. Originally, we had a game called Cha-Ching. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember. I think
it was a Facebook game.
play tested Cha-Ching.
The problem was the idea was so ambitious. Instead of just like picking a farm or a gym, like we literally decided to try to do every possible thing. And it just,
Cha-ching.
Cha-Ching. So, I mean, some of the graphics, I think, are still some of the coolest things we ever did. But, anyways, it didn't go anywhere.
Cha-ching.
Yep.
I am so offended. Sorry. I had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
This is for you, Facebook and YouTube and all you guys out there. I shouldn't say what I'm really thinking right now.
Don't let us get in your way.
Yeah.
So built that up over the number of years, got over 1 million players, ended up exiting that technology to an investment group, spent a couple years doing early stage investments here in town, co-founded. We sold it to Kesha Technologies.
Oh, okay.
That was how I ended up at Keshet. And then through Keshet, we co-founded a company called Pro Pet Software, built business management software in the pet space. That's still operating today. And then 8 years ago, got into the digital agency space and have been building mobile apps and software for brands all over the world, everything from kind of healthcare to augmented reality and entertainment and games. Back in the game space.
Well, we still do casino.
Crazy.
One of our largest clients is actually
yeah.
a real money gambling platform
That's
based
awesome.
out of the state of Minnesota. We've been supporting them for, I think, 6 years now. And that
You guys have
whole,
been killing in that space.
yeah. Oh, that point. I mean, we don't own it, but they're publicly. It's owned by a publicly traded company, and it's actually one of the fastest growing divisions, ETAB slot games in the state of Minnesota.
I love when we have people on the show that are smarter than us.
I know.
I
I'm
promise
like,
you I'm
wow,
not
these
smart enough,
guys, man.
I'm here to learn, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
No, we asked the questions.
I try
You-
to enter a room where I'm the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah,
actually,
well,
so.
this is not the room.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I'm
yeah.
the least educated. I got high school in about 1 semester. So
Oh, okay. I actually never graduated uni. I have 3 credits.
I know I have the lowest level of vocabulary here, so I hold that with great pride. You hear yo and what's up and made up words a lot for me, so
I love it.
bear
So-
with me. But
so-
yes, you lead. I love this.
So what is the problem that we're solving today?
All right. So here's an old idea that I wanted to do many, many years ago. It'll never happen, but it's beer in a bag.
Beer in a bag.
Okay,
Right?
tell more. Yeah,
Elaborate.
So think about like flow water right now. Like you're basically buying water in boxes and things like that. So, but if you think about like from a sustainability carbon footprint perspective, right? Beer is actually one of the worst, like from a cans and bottles and all of that kind of stuff. And people don't actually take care of them really well. And from a safety perspective too, like you notice now, even at like hockey games, they'll like if they give you a can or they give you one of those cups or whatever it is, they'll actually like crack the lid for you first before otherwise it becomes a weapon and they throw it. So the thought is like, why not the delivery system for beer be in a bag, right? And Be
Easier to smuggle.
easier
like,
to
there's lots of
smuggle,
benefits
easier
I
to
can
put in
see.
hats.
In your tie at a business
Well, then you
meeting,
think
it's
about when you
perfect.
finish it, you kind of roll it all up, and then you can kind of think about the last little bit. You kind of squeeze out the last drops
Right.
and stuff like that. Like just think of the social stuff that you can have fun with that with stuff like there. But we actually started years ago to kind of look at prototyping it out, and it's picked up a few times, but no one's ever done it very well.
I see.
Yeah.
So what was the initial instance or challenge that you came across, or something must have pissed you
This
off?
was in,
where you were like,
in
"Man,
university. It was the shotguns, man. It was basically like the funnels, right?
Right.
Like, I didn't want to have to funnel it, right? So I was able to just put it in a bag, and then you kind of just like
Right.
down it. I was in a fraternity.
So that's where it was born.
This is
And that's
goes back,
probably the first target audience.
Exactly.
Yeah, this
Facebook
goes back.
strategy.
This goes back to when I was in fraternity, back when I was 20 years old. So it's a 20-year-old idea. I just aged myself, but like we used to do the funnels in university and like the shotguns with the beers and all that kind of stuff. And I also find that there's a bit of a metallic taste that kind of comes out of when you're drinking a beer out of a can.
I completely agree.
So
I don't like beer out of a can at all. Like I won't drink. I'm not a huge beer guy, but I don't like drinking beer out of a can. I prefer bottles.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, take Coca-Cola for example, right? I mean, if you drink a Coke out of a can versus a bottle, it is
Oh yeah, night and day.
drastically different.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't drink Coke. I don't really actually drink beer anymore. But
Yeah.
I do once in a while if I'm like feeling edgy. I'll have a Coke.
Live dangerously.
But I'll only drink it from a glass bottle.
Yeah. I wonder how this would be in a
interesting.
glass bottle, actually, or paper.
Everything's better in
or
glass.
bagged.
Everything.
Bagged.
Yeah.
Right, Bubbly? Okay.
So we prototyped it out a little bit. This was actually my buddy of mine from university. We joke about it all the time. And realistically, like I'm talking about it because I'm never going to do this. But I think that there's an absolute market for someone to come out with a fully biodegradable, sustainable beer bag that acts also as a very cool delivery system. And if you think about even just like what we're dealing with now, like look at Liquid Death, right? These guys literally have built $1 billion company by putting water in a can.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's an opportunity here to kind of like prototype this out. There's been so many new developments too in the types of packaging that are available. And there are so many companies out there too now that will actually prototype this stuff for you for pennies on the dollar and actually handle the drop shipping and fulfillment.
Right.
Oh, it's
all
never
this
been
kind of stuff.
easier.
Yeah, it's never been easier.
Never been
I have
easier
a
to do
couple
something
questions.
like that.
First, you've seen some attempts. So why do you think some of those have failed? And then actually the later one has to be saved for later. Like how would you position this company? Is it for other beer companies or your own beer company?
I think this is for microbreweries.
Microbreweries,
right?
yeah.
And I think that part of it, I think it comes down to marketing, right? Like I think that 20 years ago when I had this idea, Instagram wasn't a thing. TikTok wasn't a thing, right? If you get good influencers and you put really good content out there with this and how to use the delivery system.
Getting people to try it will be the easiest part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's something different. And if it's a good product, then they'll stick with it, right? Then you can license it out to other breweries. But I'm just curious, like, so the first thing that comes to mind for me is, but how do you put it, like, how would it stand? If it's a bag, right? So, like, have you thought through, I'm sure you've thought about it for the last 20 years, daily.
So there are bags now that come with the foldable bottoms that can actually be like put in, and then you can buy like blister packs and things like that. The way you can kind of do it. One of the things I actually kind of wanted to do was actually a little bit different. Was actually have it in a 6-pack and it would be hanging. Do you remember the scene from The Rock where like he pulls like the chemical thing out and you have all those like balls kind of hanging?
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, not to reference balls, but I was kind of thinking like this cool packaging where it's kind of like you pick it up and it kind of like the bag is kind of almost dangling, right?
Yeah.
So it's such a talking piece. Right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Interesting.
what the fuck is that?
What
right?
is that? Is it a
Yeah.
urine
Imagine
sample?
walking
Is it
into like you bring that to a frat party and it's
Yeah.
like, what is that, right? So
Right.
I think it's about like trying to create momentum and like this, years ago when I was in a fraternity, I was the pledge master. And one of the things I had my pledges do was actually take a blow up doll with us everywhere we went in New York City when we went out. And it was the best icebreaker you could possibly imagine. So it was kind of that like same kind of philosophy. I think you can just have so much fun with it and do something outrageous that the
and
awareness
when I look at the industry for microbreweries, there's so many of them. It's like, how do they differentiate? And this could be a way for them to kind of do something a little more unique, even if it's just for fun.
Well, if you think about it,
Go ahead.
the beer industry is still doing cans and bottles.
Yeah.
It hasn't
This
changed.
is 20 years, right? How is it the delivery mechanism has not changed,
Yeah.
right?
And I feel like the canning and labeling process is also one of the most logistically challenging things for microbreweries to set up. And usually there's a fair bit of transport involved in brewing in one location and moving to a canning location. This might be easier to do more on site.
Yeah.
And I think you're thinking primarily like individual servings or like the box wine type bag
individual
approach. Okay.
Yeah. Well, think about it too. Like if you think from a sports game perspective, right? Like you think of the old hats where they put out like, you know, like now you can have them as like
You can have them hanging.
Yeah, you
totally.
have angles and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I 20 years later, just like no one's done it.
I think there's something there for sure, and I think there's so many different ways. You could have 10 people take this idea and run with it, and they would all have different designs.
Exactly.
There's so many different ways that they could do it. You'd have silicone-based bags that are reusable. Yeah, there's all kinds of, to avoid the
So on the
toxic-
show, what we like to say is, if you had to identify the skills for a founding team, like who is the ideal person that you think should run with this? And
An alcoholic?
yeah, I mean that's a prerequisite for sure.
No, I don't think you should be an alcoholic. So, I think honestly, I think it's someone who I think it's an e-commerce delivery mechanism. So now that I've been in that space for quite some time, I think that spinning up stores and getting something to market relatively quickly is never been easier, right? I think it's just a savvy entrepreneur that's looking for a little bit of a side hustle to start, and then kind of seeing where it goes, and something that's a little bit someone who's got a creative edge, someone who can go a little edgy on the creative side. So coming up
has
with
a
really
passion
cool,
for beer, has maybe a microbrewery or
someone who's
like
probably done some brewing. So like I used to brew. Again, this was back in the day. I used to brew my own beer.
Corn, brew, weed,
Direct sales.
right?
Guns.
Yeah. Gambling.
Yeah, it's
Casino. Yeah, it's
You really
a lot of
don't
money
look
and
the part.
vices.
I was gonna say.
Nice Jewish boy.
Yeah, you don't look the part. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're really cool industries. And I think someone who's got a little bit of an edgy side to them and someone who wants to be a little bit of a disruptor, someone who's also got a little bit of an influence background that doesn't mind being in front of like the cameras. I mean, are you familiar with the Midday Squares brand?
Yeah.
Like they have done. I know Nick growing up from Montreal, and his business partner is a friend of mine's, and like I've never seen a company do better social marketing in my entire life. Yeah. And if you applied that model, build it in plain sight, and like show the creative side behind it, I think that's
So we also talk a little bit. I know I want to unpack the idea and build that roadmap, and we also talk about things like startup capital. So you're saying this could be side hustle, and like our last talk with Andrea, there was two versions of the same business. So one was capital intensive, one was kind of. What do you think instinctively, if this was side hustle, how much is someone who's watching the show right now or listening saying, "Oh, okay, I fit that. I love beer. Yeah." Now here's what I think is the amount of capital you may need.
$3,000.
$3,000. Boom. This is such an
Interesting.
I think with
Love it.
the availability today with different microbreweries, the different product packaging capabilities that are out there, you can do small sample runs. You can do print labels, so silkscreen labels, so you can start with just stickers. There are so many ways to get this off the ground for such a small amount of capital. Now to scale it, that might be a different story, right? But from a startup perspective,
I think the scaling part, for me anyway, feels like it would be easier. I think the harder part is the creative process to come up with something that actually works. Where there's a lot of like little things. I'm an engineer by education.
yeah, like the cap and
But how does it? Yeah, and if you put them on top of each other, will the bottom one burst? Right, like you need a proper sort of way to kind of hold them.
Yeah, well, and I think you also have to look at how does it hold carbonation too, right? Because that's one of the things that a lot of the beverages in that space haven't necessarily dealt with.
That's a really good
and
point.
preserve carbonation over time, right?
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
So I mean, I had a direct sales company. I've developed 11 of my own products over the years. So and I dabbled in a variety of different types of packaging. So this goes back now to 2015, 16 area. And I was doing single serve packages. It's kind of like the samples back in the day, and we were able to put product in there, whether it was liquid, carbonated, powder, didn't matter, as long as it was sealed and it was like a proper seal and no air got in. Shelf life's 2 years.
That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you say $3,000, let's break that down. How, like, where would you start?
Where would I start? So I would start with product packaging first. So and all these product packaging companies will send you samples, like up to the yin yang. Like even if you go to Blender Bottle and you say, I'm thinking about, doing a custom made blender, they will send you a fucking box filled with Blender Bottle.
Totally.
So if you ever need Blender bottles, just call them up and say you're doing a sample run or whatever, and they'll send you a whole bunch of stuff. So I think starting point is the product packaging, and then finding a microbrewery that would be open to doing some testing with you. And again, the cost for that is pretty negligible. I mean, you can even just buy a keg or whatever it is. But I think it's a little different. The packaging component is going to be more of the interesting part, because taking it from a keg and then putting it into the bottle or the bag would probably reduce carbonation and other things like that. And you have to deal with foaming. And so I think the delivery mechanism and filling the bags is probably going to be your hardest part. Just because it's if you ever made beer before, it's under such a controlled environment. Even on a small scale, it's very controlled. But if you grow that to a large scale.
But they do it today. I mean, right? Like it's you're not creating something completely different.
No.
Like they are able to do it today.
Yeah. So I think working with a microbrewery, finding the product packaging, testing different types of beers. So like ones that are a little bit hoppier, ones that are higher carbonation, higher alcohol content, things like that. And then, work with 99 Designs, create the brand.
Right.
Cost you $700 to do a logo and basically a full mock-up of a site.
Even less these days.
Yeah, sorry. That's if you
With
buy everything.
clear instructions, you could actually get there
Yeah.
in less than that money. For sure.
Yeah.
I think the product design is where a lot of the effort's going to go.
Yeah.
I am curious what you guys both think, though, in terms of, is this something that you want to like trademark or intellectual property around it, or is it just like a first to market thing? Like, are you worried that as soon as someone gets a whiff of this, everyone's going to start copying it? Like, how would the founder be able to kind of, I don't want to say protect. They're not trying to build $1 billion business here, right?
Yeah.
We're saying like, hey, get started and do something cool. This is a great idea. Where would you, or Graeme, like, I'm curious where you guys would put that effort. Is it around like trademarking the design so no one copies it, or is it around just like, let's get it out, let's do really cool marketing?
To me, it's about, like, again, look at Liquid Death. What's stopping anyone from putting water in a can or water in a box or water in anything else, right? They were first to market, first people to do it.
Yeah, or Flow.
Or Flow, right? I mean, like Flow's crushing it, right?
Yeah.
It's it's a Canadian brand. It's water in a box, right? And but they also got crazy endorsements over the years. Like Steven Stamkos was like a big advocate for it and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think it's a first to market. I think it's proving the model, it's proving the delivery system, working out any of the kinks, and then I think you have the ability to work with microbreweries and do something really cool. Like you can create your own brand and working with different breweries.
Yeah, like you could
become
penetrate
a distributor.
You could penetrate relatively underneath the radar of the Molsons and the Bats of the world.
Yeah.
You don't need to, if you look at, I don't remember the statistics, but years ago I went to Bend, Oregon, and Bend, Oregon is like the capital of microbreweries. Anheuser-Busch actually went in there, dropped almost $100 million and bought out like almost all the breweries because the water quality from brewing beer, the water quality is actually super important, and they have like super crystal clear water that makes some of the best beer in the world. So, so I think that you don't have to go after 10% or 20% of the market. I think this is where everyone forgets when they start an idea that they have to go massive. And it's like, guys, like if you're entering a $100 billion market and you take 0.4% of that market. Like
Yeah.
you have a very fucking healthy
Totally.
business.
Well, and that's especially
Right?
for starting out. Like, find a little niche that you can serve and build your brand there, right? Like, if you're talking about like the influencer college type space, like you don't need to try and become
that's how
the
Red Bull
main
build their business.
drink at the sports stadiums. Like, get into that.
You realize that
piece of it, right?
Red Bull, that's literally they went out,
Yeah.
they hired
Oh,
a
yeah.
bunch of hot, college students.
Gave them a little nice, cute little car.
Yeah.
With,
Red Bull didn't invent that drink. No, totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I already envision all kinds of spin-off products, like the sleeve that's personalized to keep it cold, right? Like maybe a straw that attaches to it so you can keep it in your pocket and sip it. Like,
Yeah,
there's all kinds
I
of...
had a guy come to me, he had a water bag in the sleeve. Like he actually designed a product that for runners, you put it on your arm and then you would drink like this.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So there's so many...
holders, right? Clip it here and you're,
Yeah,
you
I mean, I'm thinking again. I'm going back to the ideal person. It'd be really. I could imagine someone who's worked with even connected different breweries, for example. Maybe this person worked in a job, and they're just really passionate about this industry, and this is their hope to actually build something that can serve the very industry they've been in love
I
with.
want to just poke a hole in who we thought the ideal person is. The more we talk about it, the more I feel like it does. Like it could be literally anyone who has a passion, because the startup cost and the networking, it just takes hustle.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if
This
you've got a passion
is
for
really
this, you can-
this is a real just like it comes down to like building a delivery mechanism, someone who is social, who's going to go out to parties, someone who's just who. You go to a barbecue on a Saturday and you just bring beer in a bag and people are gonna be like, what?
Yeah.
Like it's just I'm all about the the wow factor. And
You can even do a social campaign around the reactions of showing up with the bags to things, and like that's one of like.
So-
I think, but back to your who is it? It's someone that intuitively gets marketing.
Yeah.
It has to be. Otherwise, your startup cost goes from $3,000 to like 100 because you need to hire that person. Like, so the person running with this has to understand social marketing and that kind of performative type
Great point.
content.
Yeah.
I would agree.
someone
with
who's
that.
not afraid to be in front of camera.
Yeah.
Someone who likes to be the life of the party. Someone who likes to be outgoing.
And really
that's why I
feeds
chose
on-
to do this.
And someone who feeds on people being like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
the shock factor.
The shock factor.
Because I'd
Absolutely.
say 80% of people who see it at first are going to be like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's going to get them talking and they're going to tell their friends about it. And if you can really harness that,
Josh
I
disagrees.
just think someone is going to be like, this is the dumbest thing ever. And then there's some guy's going to run and he's like, this is amazing.
oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
No.
I dig. Okay, so someone who's listening, who's like, man, I've always wanted to do something. This is super cool. You kind of took them through the process. We get to the marketing point. I think they need a microbrewery or somebody who's willing to test this out with them.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to put up with like the upside down looks. I mean, just imagine that you're making beer and this is the way it's always been done.
Yeah.
And then someone shows up and is like, no, we're going to put it in a bag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And like my first reaction was like, man, I can
You weren't
just think of
expecting
all
that.
the...
Huh?
No,
you were
I was
not.
not.
You thought I was
honestly,
going to come
not
here and like.
even a little bit.
Honestly, of all, I could have guessed about 1,000 things and I would not have guessed
I
that.
was thinking about it. I was like in the elevator up and I was like, what do I like talk about? And I'm like, Twan's going to ask me like what idea? And I was like, you know what? I'm never going to do this. Right. And I would love for someone to do this.
Amazing.
20 years this has been in the making. I'd love for someone to do this.
So one of my approaches is always to think about like, what is the... Okay, I get irritated easily with things, and that's where all my business ideas come from. I'm like, this sucks. Like, why don't... So if we go back to that moment where that idea was born, I think that is your target audience.
It's college students.
That is your target audience. That is the pain point you're going to try to solve first. Because just like you had that issue, I mean, thousands, millions of people have had that issue. They just didn't think, let's put it in a bag.
Yeah.
I always wanted to put it in a tie because I was like, all these conferences speaking or whatever. and I like wanted to drink. And you know what? The best way to like, when you're getting on stage and you're speaking in front of 500 people, I don't care what anyone says. Like,
Taking a shot.
I'm very comfortable speaking in front of crowds, but I get, you get a little nervous.
I think if you
So
don't
I usually
get
have
nervous,
a shot of vodka before I get on stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying?
I was gonna say if you don't get nervous, is usually the talks I've given that have gone the worst.
No, I
When
always
you're
get
not nervous, you just walk up on
I
stage.
always get
That
nervous.
is
I
not a
always
good sign.
go find a place. I'm like, I just need a shot. I do a shot. It like calms me down.
Yeah.
Or a puff or whatever, right? And so I always was like, hey, in my time, it'd be cool if I could just like, do a little sip. And this would solve that problem.
So,
Well, if you think you can have small bags, medium sized, large bags,
Different
right?
shapes.
So now I'm thinking go to market. All right. So we know that this is targeting the end user is these young party goers. The channel is going to be microbreweries, and one of the first questions Richard asked was like, what is the problem? Right. So the problem we've identified to the end user. Now the microbrewery, like how do you see the positioning of the product to the microbrewery that's going to get them to act
So
on
like,
it?
what's in it for them?
What's in it for
I
them?
actually think
Yeah.
that the right microbrewery would look at this and jump all over this
1,000%.
because they would say this like, wow, this is a differentiator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're a new microbrewery.
Market, totally.
yeah.
I like just even Ottawa, right? Like how many microbreweries have popped up in the last 5 years?
Oh my God.
All over the place, right? So they're all trying to fight for the same market share.
Yep.
So if you now have a delivery mechanism that is so unique and so outrageous, and you can create crazy marketing campaigns around, and they don't have to be expensive. Like they can be in a room, they can just be done on the streets, they can be done on Parliament Hill for all you want, right?
Right.
You need a 4K camera and a microphone.
Yeah, so we're looking at,
just like a
hey,
phone.
Mark Brewery, you want to reach these young users. There's like 30,000 microbreweries in the city that just freaking popped up out
You
of
want to
nowhere.
differentiate.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you want to
But
differentiate.
not just that, but it is a low cost, low risk
correct.
way to test.
Right. You're not replacing all your current stuff.
Exactly.
It's like you launch
Exactly.
one type of beer
When
at first to try it out.
you could even run it as a bit of a competition locally for microbreweries of like, hey, we're going to make this content. We're going to launch this. We're looking for 2 or 3 microbrewery partners to help us do this.
Yep.
Your contribution will be the beer that goes in the bags and
what
promotion
does
on the
that
social
cost them?
channels.
What does that
and
cost
we'll make a bunch of content that will promote your stuff, and you'll be an early mover in the city.
So
And
once-
I literally like that too, by the way, from a business perspective. I've always been very big to make it work in your own backyard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Like you don't need to go to New York. You don't need to go to Toronto. You don't need to go to LA.
No.
If you can make it work in downtown Ottawa and the city of Ottawa, then this shit can work anywhere.
So let me just throw in what I consider to be probably one of the barriers that would come up.
Yeah.
Which is you do a test run, you order whatever like at that during the test run point, and I think it's worth sharing with the whoever's watching. The margin is irrelevant, right? We're doing a quick test run, doesn't matter what it costs, we're just testing it out. Okay, it takes off. Now you want to order this in bulk. I would say that is a time that people need to be careful, right? Because ordering product from China, which is probably where it would come from, or from overseas, because manufacturing in North America would be too expensive, in my opinion. That process is not an easy process, right? I import a lot of product from overseas, and I can tell you, like, if you think it's a 2-month timeline, it's probably an 8-month timeline, right? Like, so that I just don't. We need to just flag that as an area that someone should not underestimate.
Yeah.
Once you've got the design, once you've proven the market, the product market fit, and you're like, okay, we want to go. Finding that vendor, making sure they're trustworthy, coordinating manufacturing, quality, getting it in, is where I would suggest maybe they find a logistics partner to help them with that.
Yeah.
But to do it at scale, you have to do it. It has to be cost effective, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I did run the models years ago, like the pricing on it, and I actually did get into the point of like actually prototyping a couple of bags and
That's
running
awesome.
the costs.
Do you
and
still
all that
have
stuff.
them?
No. It's
Really?
No Hall of Fame beer bags.
He did it in Microsoft Paint.
I should have a wall of all the ideas and all the crazy crap that I've done over the years.
I love it, man. I love it. So we got to have you on again for
I know
more
that's
ideas.
like exactly.
Yeah.
You're basically re-inviting yourself
Yeah.
back to the next show.
Yeah.
There's lots of ideas. Unfortunately, truthfully, I haven't been as creative lately. I've been very in the weeds on the business and stuff like that. So this is actually kind of fun to be able to talk about some old ideas and
Yeah.
Well,
maybe
we've talked
create-
about that before. I mean, one of the pitfalls of running a business that is growing is like the bigger the business gets, the more non-creative
Yeah.
you become.
You just
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
have more
Right.
efficiency.
Totally.
I mean,
And when something escalates to you, it's usually a big problem, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, it's been
Yes.
fixed.
Yeah.
So that's why I love the.
Which is how you get to scale, though, is you
100%.
stop doing the creative things that like change everything and create whiplash in the organization.
Yeah.
It is that like repetitive execution.
Exactly.
But then you need to find other
that's the whole
outlets,
thing.
right?
We get creative. We win locally. We make it work locally, and then once we know the machine works, we pump gas and we scale.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And so you need a good logistics partner or somebody who understands that whole process because it's not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry. Go
And one of the risks that exists is during that, if you're not very disciplined and organized in that process, that's where the window of opportunity is for someone to swoop in and take it from you.
Yeah.
because you've taken the time to look at the design. You know, here I am. I'm just at the product level, even. You know, so have you thought about how can get the beer into?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
we
all
actually
been worked out.
prototyped it. We were able to get the beer in the bag 20 years ago.
So is it a technology or is it a process? Like, so the microbrewery who says, yeah, I want to do this with you, do they have to reverse engineer any of their processes to?
I think the years ago we looked at it. It was just like a valve fill. Like they were able to modify something on one of their already fill machines instead of putting it in a bottle. Like they were able to put it into the bag, and it's just the way they positioned it. So there was a little bit of finagling that had to go on. I'm sure there might already be
With today's technology,
solution
I
that
don't know. Have
should be
you guys
easy.
seen those glasses? I mean, some bars. I haven't seen it in Ottawa, but like I was in Chicago, and there's a place where they give you the pint and they like press it down and it fills from the bottom.
Yeah,
Have
yeah,
you seen that?
I've seen that.
Yeah.
So like there are valves like that
Yeah.
that already exist that can do.
It's
fills.
a bladder basically.
Yeah.
Like they put a bladder and like you kind of just like feed it in.
Yeah.
And it auto seals on its own.
Yeah.
So again, the technology is probably completely different today than it was 20 years ago. And it's funny because every 5 years, me and my buddy Red, that comes up, he'll like text me. He's like, "Beer in a bag." I was like, "Damn it!"
Right. So you and Buddy prototyped this product.
Yeah, I probably still actually have some of the old designs somewhere, like in an old email.
Yeah.
like, that
There
I
you go.
could
So
pull
everyone
out.
That'd
can
be awesome
email
if we can
Josh
use that.
and
That'd be awesome. If we can find them, we'll post them on the.
Yeah, so
that'd be
we got
so
some
cool.
really cool young lads here behind, who's managing the show, everyone here. And so let's say they want to run with it.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, okay, we're going to figure out the product, what it can look like, that it can hold the carbonation for 2
1%
years.
royalty fee, please.
Right? Yeah. Where do they go to figure? Do they have to get some kind of a type of engineer? Who do they talk to?
I actually
Packaging
don't-
companies.
Packaging companies. So this goes back to my Jump Natural days when I was building my direct sales company. Like, you know, I worked with the product formulator, so I knew that it was a powder, and then the product formulator will give you the weight and all the product specs that you would need to then give to the packaging manufacturer, and they have a list of like what will work and what won't work based on volume. And it's funny because like science is pretty cool. You know, you get a thing of powder, like it actually can have a very different weight, right?
Yeah.
And depending on the type of product, depending on the packaging you put it in and how much space you have, there actually may be issues on storage,
Import,
and all that
export,
stuff.
you know.
Well, yes.
Well, I mean, one of the problems with carbonated drinks, and one of the reasons that they use cans and bottles, is because it holds it. The volume state stays the same. A bag can stretch or can. So
But
like,
they're
there's
doing it in
certain things
bottles.
that need
They
to
do it
be
in
figured
Perrier
out.
does it in plastic bottles all the time.
That's true. They do it in plastic bottles. Yeah, but it's not a
Carbonated
bag.
products are in tons of plastic bottles.
That's true.
When I actually back in the day when I did brewing on my beer, I actually put them in 2-liter Coke bottles. That's what was my brewing. Like, and the finishing and the bottling was all done in plastic.
Right.
So that was back in 2007 I did that.
Right. When they had first invented plastic.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do something that Richard normally does on the show.
Yeah.
Is we're going to like just kind of bring it back to
Yeah,
where
man.
we're at. So we have the problem faced by the end user,
Yep.
right? We have the challenge for the microbrewery who wants to access the end user. We have the product, right? The product itself. And actually, it's not that difficult to figure out the product side.
I mean, if you
And-
really want it, if someone who enjoys making their own beer, I mean, you can really test this model yourself, and you can do you can make your own beer for $25.
Yeah. And then figure how to with minimal loss of carbonation get the beer into the packaging.
Yeah.
That is a process that needs to be cleaned up, but not too difficult.
Yeah.
So now it's next step is get it out.
Logistics for like mass manufacturing.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
think
That's probably your largest. The biggest hurdle is going to be the scale up, right?
the scale up. But chances are, if you've got all of the upfront stuff, it wouldn't be hard to find a partner that will both fund it and can handle the logistics side. And then now we switch over to marketing. Like, who is we all agree that marketing is really what's going to drive this, social marketing. So that and who the target audience is going to be.
I think it's a Gen X target audience.
Oh, 100%.
I think that, and it's going after college students that care about the environment. Because if you can create a sustainable packaging and then sustainable manufacturing process, right? And you can, again, it might be even just as simple as like we're using recycled whatever, I don't know, right? Yeah. But sustainability is massive at this point, and there's an entire group in the market that literally will just buy purely based on sustainability.
100%.
Yep.
Right, and these people still party. Right,
yeah.
They still go to fraternities and sororities.
I was thinking entering in a similar way, but every brewery that I could think of is introducing alcohol-free beer.
Yep.
And what if we enter the market with this is your alcohol-free beer way to deliver it? It hits the same target. I buy it all the time. The Corona Sun Brew. That's what that is. I think.
You go to Loblaws now, and they have wine, Cabernet Sauvignon at 0% alcohol.
Yeah.
We have. At Arctic, we have a brand right now, a very big brand that we're launching an low alcohol, like I think it's like 0.7% or whatever it is.
Broadhead's got a really nice blueberry one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the fastest growing segments in the market right now is the low alcohol, no alcohol.
Well, the beauty of... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, does that change or open up other opportunities for how you do the social marketing too? Because if you're doing it alcohol driven, there's certain rules you have to play within. If it's alcohol free,
well, that's
do you get kind of
at the very beginning.
market?
So there's low alcohol and then there's alcohol free. And
right.
there is a big difference. Even if it's like 0.2% alcohol, you still fall in the alcohol category.
Okay.
So you really have, but through the fermentation process, you have to be kind of careful, and that's kind of where like that kombucha loopholes kind of.
But I
Great
suspect
kombucha too. That's another market that could take this on.
I want to just back up for just a second. We'll keep going back to the marketing side, but in terms of like what's in it for the brewery, or for whoever is, if it's not a brewery, if it's this company, the volume size for shipping, I think there's a real ROI that happens there. Like freight is a big problem right now, and I don't see it going away. Even just think about the
cost. Like how heavy is a glass bottle comparative to a plastic bag or a fill, right? So even if you're saving 10 ounces, right, multiply that by 1 million. Yeah, that's a lot of weight.
Shelf space. But I mean, think of a can. I mean, I don't know exactly the math around it, but like the way that there's a lot of dead space between them, right? Like that's something you can get rid of with something that's using this technology.
But when you brought this up, I want to wait for this part, but I was thinking, wow, I would kind of think it's cool. The alcohol-free beer that I buy comes in this eco solution. It just fits me. I'm wearing recycle, like dead stock clothing even.
Totally.
Right? This is from dead stock from other companies who don't use this material. So that's what this company does, right? Like it fits everything, and I pay a premium for this. Right?
So you're our audience, basically.
Yeah, I'm the audience.
There we go.
Am I Gen X? I don't know what
your
Gen
first
I'm in.
customer here.
Yeah.
But it does. So it ends up creating an entire different way of marketing.
Yeah.
I like Liquid Death because they came in at these like parties, and you don't want to.
That's really how they started.
You don't want to
look
look
pop-up
like
stands at Coachella, and like that's how they started. Like they didn't even start at Coachella. They started at like smaller venues and stuff.
I like to target an audience that I think is a growing segment. Like we've talked about this, right? And Y Combinator, they say the same thing. Like, is it a big problem? Is it trending upwards, right? And if it's trending upwards, and we're in there in the beginning, first it's trending upwards, which means not the whole world knows about it yet, right? And if you come in at the right market and you are the reason that this product is positioned a certain way and it starts reaching that market potential, I believe you've created that category.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think if it was up to me, I would do the testing in a small market like an Ottawa, a Kingston, or something like that. But I would do the launch in the U.S. somewhere, probably.
Yeah. I definitely test as low alcohol, and then the zero alcohol audience with the same, maybe 3 different breweries saying, okay, I'm going to go low alcohol for you.
I agree with you on that and do the testing like Ottawa or Kingston or Hamilton or something, a small town. And then delivery for like mass, I would do it rush week.
Right. Oh, that's a great idea.
That's super fun.
Yeah.
That's fun
Bar
too.
crawls,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just, like frat parties, and
Yeah.
And everybody comes, like, wakes up the next day and they've got like piles of these. Like, they're like, what is this, right? Totally.
Yeah. Any of you guys have an opinion? You guys want to come in camera? Do you have any thoughts? Brendan?
What the better option would be?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm just
like,
curious your
like
reaction. Your reaction to the idea.
Okay, come in here, come here, come here.
I love it because he's probably the youngest person in the room right now.
Because you're tall. So here. We're gonna get all a little snuggly here. You want to throw your thoughts in here too? Okay.
It's a lot of pressure. No, I think it's so cool, and I think the angle that you took, like, I'm just thinking back to when I was in university, and maybe a little bit more.
About a week ago?
A couple of weeks ago. Exactly.
A couple of years ago. But when I was definitely, let's say, starting university, and I was a little bit more in that, like, finding my way, like, degenerate phase, right? Like, if you gave me a bag of alcohol, the first thing I thought of was, like, slapping the bag, right? And I don't know if you guys, like, I'm sure you know that.
yeah, okay.
But it's like you'll see it now with the vodka sodas, right? They've had a lot of success in bag form for a couple of reasons. But one of it is because they're more fun at parties, right? Like, people will hit the bag, they'll pour the vodka soda down your throat kind of thing. Like, I thought you can capitalize on people who kind of want to make a game, like gamify drinking.
Yeah, you can do,
makes sense.
what is it? What's the game where you blindfold yourself and you hit the pinata game, right? Like, you can like pinata.
I don't know. I want to.
Josh had a very different experience than I
You
did.
never like hit the pinata? Like,
I was in university for like all of 2 months.
Whoever's taking this idea, we get invited to the party.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
And I
That's
want
the only
these two. I want to
condition.
party with these two guys. Yeah, right?
Yeah, I was the pledge master in my fraternity, so like those were we had some pretty wild nights. Like, they were fun.
But it just it gives you like a whole new option of what you can do when you're out at these like activities and events, right? And even thinking something as simple as beer pong, like there really is just something about taking a bag and pouring it from the bag versus a can, right? It kind of like it's a
It
totally
just gives it
different
it's a different it's an experience, right? And it creates memories, right? The idea
And then-
is if you can create memories, you have that social awareness and excitement.
And then
that
for old
euphoria.
people like me, and I think back of like, over all of these years, there's never been a better time and an easier time to start something like this.
Well, hold on, the old thing. Just not I'm calling you old or anything, but
I want to double down on that.
But
Can we
no,
zoom?
so think about like something like this, right? If someone who is elderly, who has
Like Richard here,
mobility.
With mobility issues.
Well, think about it. If you have mobility issues, but you like drinking beer and you're drinking out of a bottle and he falls and it smashes and it breaks, and now you have issues with having to clean that all up, and you have glass and all the other stuff. So from a safety perspective, even like when you're dealing with kids and other things like that, it is a safer mechanism.
I do feel like the safety angle is probably not what we would lead with
I
from a
agree with
marketing
you.
standpoint. But I agree that there's.
Yeah.
I think too, like off of that point though, like just thinking about it, if I'm at like a house party or something like that, let's say, and I'm hosting it, there's something that kind of sucks about having hundreds of cans and bottles all over your apartment and the cleanup, right? Whereas if it was
Brutal, dude.
like that would be so much easier. It'd be such less of a
And then
headache.
you don't get that like some jerk who throws a cigarette butt into the top of the bottle and you take a swig and like it's like no, you don't do that.
So before we continue, I want Brandon here, who's now our newly added board of advisor member here. Because I'd love you guys to hear his really brief intro, like how you did at our weekly calls, and then talk about a little bit on the social marketing side, because he can literally be a key driver of the storytelling side. Hit it.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. Well, long story short, I got shot in a drive-by. I run a charity. That's where like my social understanding has come from. I've generated probably over 30 million views now between TikTok and Instagram. Really just telling my story and telling the story of the individuals that we work with and fundraise for. Your guys, like this idea is totally different, but it's the storytelling piece is still similar, right? If you can find somebody, like I immediately thought of like the Nelk Boys, if you guys know who those guys are, but they're literally famous for being partiers. Like they started running a prank YouTube channel, and then they just showcased this like crazy lifestyle of something that a lot of young 20-year-olds would aspire to live. I don't think when you maybe get into your later 20s, like they've changed a little bit. But when you're finding your way through college and those sorts of things, like you look up to those people, right? You're excited for the weekends. And
Right.
like if you can find somebody who holds all of those values to be true in their, experience, I think like you could find such success marketing this like so easily too, because the shock factor is going to be there 100%.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, this is. I got to tell you, be honest. When you first said the idea,
It's like, what is this?
when you first said the idea, I was like, "Who invited this guy?"
Where do we go from
But
here?
I'm quite excited about it now. Like I've gone
I only
from
met
like,
him the first time, so I don't know if he's being serious.
No, he is. Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea, and I here's what I love. I love entrepreneurship, and I love when young people start businesses. What I love, not the most, because there's a lot of good things here, but something I really love about this idea is it's so reachable for somebody to take it.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody who's straight out of high school, out of university, like it doesn't matter where you are in life, how much life experience you have. If you've got the drive and the hustle and the creativity, you could really take this and do something really cool with it, right? You could do something really amazing.
By the way, Brandon, if you do want to run with this, you're allowed to. It's only the 4 of us who are not allowed to run with this idea. But we're allowed to invest in the idea
Okay.
once it starts generating revenue. So it's the only time the audience who's in the world who runs with this idea and they come up to us, say, hey, we've taken it to X amount. We haven't had much margin when we went to market, but we see where we could scale and create margin.
Yeah, that's where we can help them
Can
scale.
you consider an investment back into the company, right? So we're not stopping you from running it if you're excited about this.
Yeah.
But I do feel your skill set. It's why I thought about you. I've been thinking about you during the entire conversation, because the storytelling, the branding, creating that community vibe, this is something that is a strength. So whoever who's out there, who shares a similar love and skill and passion like Brandon, I think can absolutely crush this with this business.
100%.
And even the cool thing is there's microbreweries all over the world. This literally can be launched 100 of these at the exact same time.
Yep.
And then
Europe, you can have Canada, United States, Brazil. I mean,
Well, and your risk is so low because it's literally do the legwork to find the partners, bring it together, and then test
again,
it.
you can test it yourself.
Yeah.
You don't even need to bring this idea
so-
to a microbrewery because you
No.
can make if you are making beer already,
Yeah.
right? You can test this.
Well, this is the thing that I find. So when I speak about entrepreneurship and I speak about people's thinking of entrepreneurship as a career path, I love business ideas that really can be transformational, that are not mobile apps,
I never want to
Right?
build another mobile
that,
app ever again.
that have a low capital requirement,
Yes.
right?
And that
And I think that's super important. Like this has a low capital requirement. There's a lot of businesses that require a lot
So
of
here's
capital.
what I also like about this is, and this goes with any of the businesses that I ever want to look at or any investments that I look at as well. Is there a repeatable business model? Is the product consumable, right? And there's been a lot of great innovations that come out of Ottawa and other things in other areas, but like sometimes those price tags, like I'll just use Instapot as an example, right? Great product. How many Instapots do you need in your house,
Right.
right? Versus how much beer do you consume on a weekend?
And not just beer. I mean, it can extend to
Yeah, exactly.
any beverage, really.
It could be nutritional supplement products. It could be a shake. It could be I mean, like they do
And
it
I-
in yogurts.
and the
like, they
next
do it for
step-
yogurt for kids,
Right.
right?
Oh, 100% they do.
So
That's
so
right.
like again, what is it? I think it's just the beer industry has been doing things the same way for so long.
Yeah.
That is like, well, are you crazy?
I feel it's the same way about the air travel industry, but that would take a lot of capital.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I also don't want us to lose sight of all the peripherals that come with this, where you can personalize it, where you could have like carry things and extenders and
straws.
Like,
Oh
there's-
my God,
it's like
exactly.
never
The
ending,
accessory,
and I love that.
The accessory market could be massive. The custom made stuff you can do with it too. Like you can make your own brands. bachelor
Campuses could brand
parties,
it for
groomsmen gifts. Like you could
100%.
do.
And
And
I
if you
think
could-
I think that's an amazing selling point for the microbreweries. Is they're providing not just an eco way of consuming beer where it gives them a bit of a cool factor that maybe is aligned with them, but this literally can create an entire industry outside of beer.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's pretty cool. The other thing I was going to ask is, do you see this as an entry point as an exclusivity angle, or it's exclusive, or like, you know, when you see where I'm coming from? Like, I don't know if you're feeling this or not, because I feel you're having an idea.
Well, I'm thinking about something a little bit different. Like I think what's really cool from the social angle, a lot of bars and clubs are really trying to get on social media and do it successfully in the modern world, right? It's how you connect with that younger generation of people. And one of the things I talk about, and my social media team talks about with content strategy, is the outlier factors. So are you so different that someone who's never seen your product or what you're doing will stop scrolling to actually watch the video, right? Because your watch time is going to be conducive of how likely you are to go viral. So if you can partner with, let's say, like Happy Fish on Elgin Street, and they want to grow their social media channels, and now you've got beer in a bag, I'm probably going to stop. Like if I'm following you on social media, right, or if I'm just scrolling my app, because that's crazy.
You'd be like, what the hell is that? Yeah.
Can you imagine this?
But-
like you can like if these places want to do like these huge bags of beer too, right?
Yeah.
You know, and then like imagine it's like
Or a fold-out
like-
flight.
yeah, like a
Right? Like you just like drop the whole thing and it's like,
right?
here's our entire
Yeah.
spectrum of all the
Just-
colors, and you just work your way down.
I just again like every time I talk about it, I get jazzed up because
This is
it's
fun.
just,
This
yeah,
is
it's
really
just a
fun idea.
wild thing that you can continue to do and just have fun with.
We'll
it.
have this guy back on the show for sure.
Yeah, but we'll have different products as well. You know,
I guess I'll have to go back to
consume
the
while
old
we,
the old Rolodex and start looking at all the old ideas that I used to come up with. So.
So we've also asked questions of how do you see phase 1, phase 2, phase 3,
Yeah.
right? And so phase 1, I think we've nailed it down. There's still work to be done. Of course, we're not here to give the entire answer, but this is more than enough for someone to pick up and get going. How do you envision phase 2 and phase 3 looking?
Oof, I never got that far. I think the prototyping's phase 1 and getting some market validation. I'm big on the D2C, direct to consumer model. So I think you can spin up a site on Shopify, use TikTok commerce and all that kind of stuff to get traction going. And I think pre-sale. I think not enough brands do pre-sales. Like everyone tries to actually think they need to go out and they have to produce 5,000, 10,000 orders. Like, no, don't.
Yeah.
Launch your product, take pre-orders, and then do your run.
Or how about this? How would someone who's taking this idea know that it's time to find funding to grow the business? At what point is that business?
Ooh, that is a good question.
I think that funding now, I mean, pre-sale, I 100% agree with you. I think that's a way to kind of reduce your risk.
I think you can bootstrap this, and I think the funding aspect comes in is when you have that terminal velocity, right? And that's when you start getting enough market validation and traction, and people are coming to you, and you can't actually fulfill the amount of orders that you're getting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. That's to me is kind of like, oh crap, like I need to.
There's going to be supply chain costs. You have to deal with. Somebody else
Correct.
isn't going to carry for you to ship that first large order. And I think you need either your own capital or outside capital to do that.
Yeah, that's the point where you go to. But I would
That's
also
why I
say
like the pre-sale so much.
100%.
Because if you come out of the market and you're like, well, I have 5,000 orders, getting capital to fund that is
Easy.
not going to be difficult.
No.
Or I mean, you fund it with the proceeds of the pre-sale, right? So
But I agree. Once you get to that point, that's the easiest time to raise capital. If someone here wants to go raise capital based on this idea, it'll be very, very hard.
very difficult.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So I could see people running this and they're getting tired. It's growing. The margins are decent, but not great. And so that way they don't have enough to put back into the business.
I mean, between everyone here, I would say it's unlikely, unless you really want to keep running it, it's unlikely you'll get to that point without somebody trying to buy you out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if this is successful, by the time you get to phase 2 and you've got pre-orders and people are starting to see this and it's taking off, someone's going to knock on your door and take it. Some big company's going to come
And I
and take
think
it.
one of the things too, I'd be curious your collective thoughts on is like building the brand around this has a bit of a challenge, right? Because I don't imagine you guys know the brand of the glass bottle that beer comes in.
No.
Right? Like who's the underlying company for that, right? And the beer companies that you partner with aren't necessarily going to want their brand of beer, which is kind of the end product, to be superseded by the bag brand. So And I also don't know if you can run your kind of bag brand site with 9 competing craft beer listed side by side and still have their partnerships. So I think how you build the brand to stand out and scale while also supporting what's in it.
that's
Like
a good
Liquid
point,
Death is
Graeme.
water.
Well, you said
right?
you had someone on the show who had kind of like the same idea but could have gone in multiple directions, right? So you could take this in multiple directions in the sense of prototyping it, and then what's stopping you from starting your own microbrewery and then bringing that to market? And there's your differentiator comparative to other microbreweries.
Be the only beer you can buy in a bag
Correct.
versus be the bag that sells to all the breweries.
And it's why, like, the first question is, like, who do you see this? Is someone who's ready a microbrewery? Is it an individual? You know, what's this? And so I do think a
I'm glad you guys
It could
brought
be
that
a
up.
marketplace though. Like it could be a marketplace too. And it's like, I mean, Amazon's proved that marketplaces work, right?
Yeah.
Walmart does. I mean, so
Oh, but that's a good point. That's a good point. So you could either use it as a way to differentiate your own beverage, whatever it is, or you can be the private label, whatever.
Yeah.
You just are selling, you're the supplier of these things. Too.
Well, that actually goes back to one of your original questions. I think if it is your own thing that you're putting product in, then I think you actually care about IP.
Yeah.
Because then the bag is your IP.
Yes.
If your product is other microbreweries and other deliveries, and you're kind of just the, I won't say gimmicky, but like you're a novel thing for them to build on, you're less concerned about the underlying IP. I think eventually it's still a thing you have to worry about, but it's more about you're building on the brands of other brands and
That's
giving
gold.
them something cool.
Yeah, because
I think the second option is that the IP is secondary, and I think once you validate the model and you see where things go, that's when you can probably look at how to start thinking of IP in a different way.
Yeah. Although I think if I talk to any of my IP friends, they would say the day you're talking about this, you start filing a provisional, give yourself the 3
But
years
again,
to
I
actually do
think-
something
I
with
think-
it. And
Yeah, like patents again is like I think that you would need something unique on the delivery mechanism to really to patent it. And then again, now you're talking a lot more than 3,000 to 5,000.
I would say, yeah, this is how we go
startup
from
costs,
$5,000 to like millions. Like
Yeah.
it's the divergence
But
there.
I've known guys who are, I think we all might know guys, even including yourself, making beer on your own. There's some guys just outside of Ottawa who get access to really nice water, they said, so they want to do a mini microbrewery. Like, I would be taking this to do it for my own company. That's how I would run with it. I would run with it as my own microbrewery. I would build a brand and make it sexy. And then maybe
Meanwhile, I would be the exact opposite. I want to be the supplier of bags.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Nobody knows who I am.
But nothing.
I don't wanna
say
build a
nothing-
brewery at the same
nothing's
time.
gonna stop me from creating a company that also provides that,
Yeah.
right? But I guess because I like to own the positioning of it.
But then
of
you're
the
splitting your effort, right? Because
Yeah.
you're trying to figure out how to be a successful microbrewery and all of the nonsense that comes with that, and how to be a package manufacturer and distributor
It's the
and influence
two-sided
marketing, right? I'm like,
marketplace that you have to
I'm
deal
more
with.
like, pick your one angle, and I like a model where it's like, let me go find everyone who has my customers already. Go find 100 breweries who already have the customers that I want to get to, give them something to make more money and get more exposure, and let them do the bulk of the
As soon as you
legwork.
successfully prove that it works with 1 or 3 or 5 microbreweries, every single one of them's calling you.
Yes.
I want that bag.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
The problem is you have to have enough of brand identity and enough exposure for you above and beyond the breweries you're working with, that when they say I want that bag, they actually find you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the I think the piece to balance in the marketing. But as long as you're findable, I think that's the way to do
I
it.
think about Liquid Death, and I wonder, have they changed the supplier of the cans? Who pitched them a lower price?
Oh, I'm sure.
Probably, definitely.
Like we say yesterday,
Well, they're doing
your
also-
margin
they're
is my
doing-
opportunity.
Well, they're doing soda waters now. They're getting into
saying,
protein shakes.
have
Like,
they
they're
changed the supplier of their water?
I can just say though that between
Liquid Death is still growing.
the
You know?
by the time that happens, you've already done very well.
Yeah.
Right? You've already done very well, and now the business is changing, the dynamics changing. You've got money behind you. Everything changes.
Yeah.
But I love this show. This was fantastic.
Yeah, this is awesome.
This was fantastic.
Cool problem.
I had no
Yeah.
idea what I was
Yeah.
coming in today. They were
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm going to come up with this ridiculous idea. You guys are going to be like, why the heck did we invite this guy?
Here's
No,
the best
man.
part. All our guests have said, I didn't know what idea I was going to run with today.
It's so funny, and a
You
lot
don't
of
give
yeah.
anyone precursors. It's like, by the way, you should think through what you're going to talk about. Like,
No, but that's what makes it, I think, more authentic and funner. Like I love it. Like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And we decided intentionally not to even us receive the idea in advance.
Because then it becomes too scripted, right?
Yeah.
I like how we like sort of evolved and went down these different paths. And
I straight up
completely
when Josh
crazy.
gave the idea, I had like a good 2 minutes where it's just like, I don't know what to add to this. I have no context. I don't know what this
but that's how it
is.
sort of
Congrats
plays
on me a
out.
long
Beer
time,
juice
too.
box. All right.
And I'm hoping the audience enjoys it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome, man. So I think we've unpacked this idea enough for today.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
So so maybe you want to wrap it up, but like thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you for
Great
having us.
questions, great ideas. I didn't think about a lot of these things. Thanks for jumping on, with no notice.
Tons of fun, guys. I love this stuff.
yeah.
It's great.
I'll just call it. Thank you very much, and we'll just see you guys at the next show. Everyone, peace out. Much love.
Peace.
Much love.
Thanks.